Hello, Marvel fans, and welcome to What's New in Marvel Unlimited, where we take a look at the comics new to the Marvel Unlimited app. As always, there's a great selection of interesting stuff to take a look at. We've done our reading, and now we're here to help you navigate the vast chronicles of comics within the Marvel Unlimited app.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to What's New in Marvel Unlimited. This is Dan. Each week, my daughter Siena and I are taking a look at which Marvel comics are releasing digitally through the Marvel Unlimited app. For this week, we're focusing on the week of January 14th to 20th, 2024. So, if you've got a subscription to Marvel Unlimited, or you're wondering about getting one, follow along with us and find out what's new and cool.
Okay, so a quick overview of the week. We have 22 new items, which 5 of which are at Infinity Comics, 16 are regular monthly issues, and there are 3 first issues as well as 1 reprint, which is Daredevil number 183.
Yep, so the 22 issues are 1 reprint, 16 newsstand comics, 5 scrolling comics. And then the reprint, that Daredevil 183, we'll talk about in a little while. Kind of interesting to see how that's different from just a regular comic in the app. But to get started, we usually talk about the Infinity Comics, the books that are exclusive to Marvel Unlimited, the ones that are specifically made sort of as scrolling vertical comics with tablets and phones in mind. What titles came out this week?
We have Alligator Loki, number 31, Avengers United, number 14, Marvel's Voices, number 85, Spider-Man Unlimited, number 19, and X-Men Unlimited, number 122.
All right, sounds good.
And I actually did take a look at the Alligator Loki ones. I read a couple of them, and they're really super cute, actually, and I like them a lot. And I actually do like the scrolling of it. It makes it really easy to read, especially, I think I looked at the Marvel Mutts as well at one point, and since they don't have those ones don't have, like, any words in them, they're just pictures, it's actually really easy to just flow through and understand what's happening with the pictures. So I think they're actually really cute and really cool.
So you did Alligator Loki. I took a look at a couple of them this week, the Avengers United and the Marvel's Voices. I am still adjusting to these. I don't know that they're necessarily ever going to be my favorite way to read comics. But it's interesting stuff. I like that they're doing exclusive content. Like, these are stories that are not offered on any of the books that are in stores. So if you do want to get something a little different, you're looking for more Avengers than what you can get on the newsstand, that is kind of cool that by getting an unlimited subscription, you do get some new content, some new comics you can check out. And a lot of these are weekly. So like Alligator Loki, number 30 came out last week, number 31 this week. So as we talked about last week, it's kind of these little chunks. But those are interesting. They kind of almost feel like some of the kids' funny animal type of comics.
Yeah.
The Donald Duck type of stuff from back in the day and some of the stuff they're doing. It's a lot of like visual gags and humor. Very simple kind of books with some of those. A lot of the other ones, like the X-Men ones and the Avengers, aren't necessarily that. They're kind of more like regular comic stories, just in a different format. That's cool. So, glad you liked that one. Another thing about Infinity Comics we noticed this week, and we're just kind of, I've had Marvel Unlimited for years, but I've never really looked at when books are coming out. Infinity Comics are different than regular books in that they don't all come out on Monday. So they've been coming out through the week. So the ones that we're listing here technically are just books that have appeared in the app since the last time we talked to you folks.
Yeah. So
they may be, you've come in sometime later this week on Thursday, Friday, you may actually find new Infinity Comics there that weren't there when we were talking. And if so, we'll see them and talk about them in next week's or mention them in next week's podcast. So there we go. So onward to the actual sort of like a regular pamphlet comics that have been put into digital. What did we get this week? What's new and interesting?
Okay, so the 16 new standard comics are Captain Marvel, Assault on Eden, issue 1, Capwolf and the Howling Commandos, number 1, Superior Spider-Man Returns, number 1. These are all of our number 1 titles for this week.
Right. So did you read any of these?
I read all 3 of them.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
So, just to kind of let people know, the Captain Marvel Assault on Eden is a one-shot that then leads into the new Captain Marvel series that's going to be starting up in just a couple weeks here. The Capwolf and Howling Commandos is a 4-issue miniseries set back in World War II. And Superior Spider-Man Returns is another one-shot that leads to another ongoing series. A new Superior Spider-Man comic that's coming out in, I don't know, a few weeks or a month. So what did you think of these then, if you've read through all of them?
I actually liked all of them. I was kind of confused by the Superior Spider-Man one to begin with, just because it started out with, like, it seemed like it was something I should have already had some context for, but once I got into it, I understood what the actual idea was, because he explained his master plan in the beginning.
There was a whole time when Doc Ock sort of switched bodies with took over Spider-Man.
I gathered that, but I felt like I should have known that already going in. But I got it.
You shouldn't have known that, because you obviously, you were probably alive during that time, but you were not reading a bunch of comic books when that happened. So that's kind of a cut from a ways back. They do explain it pretty well, and it is actually a pretty cool story. I also enjoyed really all of these, but the Superior Spider-Man, I think, had kind of a cool setup, and Otto Octavius's inner monologue is really frustrating but cool. Like, there's I would hate him if I had to be around him, but he's also interesting to listen.
Yeah, you're like his the girl that was with him. That would be you.
Yeah, pretty much everybody would be that person. Just be like, yeah, I've had enough of it.
I need someone who's going to bask in my brilliance no matter what. Okay, calm down.
So that one was good. I'm looking forward to actually to see what they come up with the series when it gets rebooted. Capwolf and the Howling Commandos. What did you think of that one?
I thought it was cool because it was like kind of different. And I also I like werewolves. I think they're cool. But I was kind of like, it didn't come in until the end, and I thought it was a one-shot for a while, but then I was like, oh, this is an actual series. Yep. So I'm kind of excited for that, actually.
Yeah, there was not a lot of werewolves until near the end.
Like the last 3 pages.
Sort of spoiler on that. Until then, it's a relatively conventional, sort of like Sergeant Rock. Sergeant Rock. I'm getting my DC stuff mixed in. Is a relatively standard Sergeant Fury sort of story. Interesting question. Did you recognize Sergeant Fury? Do you know who that is?
No.
That is Nick Fury.
I kind of assumed, because why would there be 2 Furies?
Yep. So Nick Fury, originally in the comics, he came in as a sergeant in the U.S. Army in World War II, leading a group of commandos. It was called Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos. And most of the characters that were in there, Dum Dum, a lot of those guys, you actually see in the Captain America movie, if you remember some of that.
Like the first one?
Yep, essentially being led instead by Cap as he breaks him out of that prison, and then they help him with stuff. But in the comics, they were actually sort of the squadron that worked with Nick Fury. So, and then we have Captain Marvel, Assault on Eden. How about that one? What did you think of that one?
I mean, I liked it, but I was a little bit confused again, just like with like the actual villains of it, because like the whole thing was like the villains were targeting the hybrid races, but I was like, why are they doing that?
So it's the supreme intelligence, and it's all about perfecting the Kree and everything.
Yeah.
And so then the Kree were all like, hey, let's be peaceful and hang out with the Skrulls. And it's like, no, I must kill you all and start over.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So supreme intelligence sucks. Pretty much has sucked forever.
Yeah.
And so that was interesting, I think, in some ways. It had a lot of characters. It had a lot of backstory behind it. There is so much history of the Krees and Skrulls and their wars. And the fact that now Hulkling is the Emperor and all this other stuff. That
was in the Loki books too. When I was like, why is he like ruling over these people if he's not like one of them?
So he's a hybrid, and then so is Wiccan, and because of that, they essentially are able to merge the Skrull and the Kree empires together and co-rule them essentially.
I think it was really cute that they were married though, because I didn't pick up on that when I read Loki, but.
They've been around for a long time. They started out in like Young Avengers, I think. And so that's been a long brewing sort of romance and whatever. and sort of character development. So they started out as just on Earth, and neither of them knew sort of really who they were. They kind of were just hanging out in regular households. And look at them now.
Wow.
Taking over half the universe. So,
crazy.
All right. So what else did we have?
Next, we had Silver Surfer Rebirth Legacy, number 2.
Yep. And Magneto. And I'm going to put these together because this is weird to me. Silver Surfer Rebirth Legacy actually is set in probably the chronology back around the time of the Silver Surfer books published in 1990 to 1992. Because they just printed this story, and it's by, essentially, the guys who did it then. The writers Ron Mars, the artist is Ron Lim. They did the original Silver Surfer books from like 50 to 70 or 75 or something. This story is another story from that time. So it's not actually in the current chronology. And the Magneto story, similarly, is a miniseries that is set, essentially, they say, around the time of New Mutants number 38, which was published in 1986, which means it was when I was your age, is when this book was set. Don't laugh, that wasn't that long ago. So, I'm glad we don't have video with the look I just got. So it's kind of weird though that both of these books really are essentially just throwbacks in time. So if you're reading for current Marvel chronology, the Silver Surfer and Magneto book, you don't even really need to worry about reading them because they're actually more like just sort of throwbacks to the past kind of thing for people who are interested in more from that time. But it also means that it's really confusing if you weren't reading in 1986 or 1990 because all of the pieces on the chessboard are set back to where they were then. And there's a lot of characters and situations which don't apply now. So, what else we got?
Okay, so then we have Star Wars Dark Droids, number 3, and we also have Star Wars The Mandalorian, Season 2, number 5.
Sure. So the Mandalorian book, I read a little bit of those, but they are actually almost a strict adaptation
of the
Disney Plus show. And I've already watched the show, so that one I'm not too excited about. The Dark Droids, actually, I'm really enjoying. That is something I've had to catch up on. And it's weird. It's not exactly what I would call bingeable, and it's not a jumping on point. But if you're interested in Star Wars books, this Dark Droids number 3 actually is essentially the midpoint. It is the number 14 story in a 29-story crossover that includes Dark Droids, Star Wars, Darth Vader, Dr. Aphra, Bounty Hunters, and D-Squad. And all of these books, there's a checklist at the end of each one of these comics that shows which one's next. And so each month, all of the books in that are now sort of a connected storyline. It started back with Dark Droids number 1. And if you're interested in sort of following along with this, one of the nice things is a lot of these Star Wars books are on like issue 30, 40, whatever. If you wanted to just kind of jump in at a jumping on point, head back to Dark Droids number 1.
Yeah, because there's only 3.
Yep. Yeah. Find that on point, and then there'd be like 14 books to catch up. And then as of every week now, for the next probably month and a half, there will be another issue coming out, or maybe 2 in this storyline. It's called something like It's Coming for the Metal or something like that. And the idea is that there's this thing that's taking over droids and causing them to try and destroy their organic masters. So it's kind of a droid rebellion going on. And Charles Soule's writing a lot of this stuff. In fact, he's written, I think, most of the stuff I've read so far. He's a fantastic writer. So, yeah, I'm enjoying it. I would say it's not a bad idea to check those out if you're interested in getting started in Star Wars, or if you like Star Wars.
Cool. So next we have Moon Knight: City of the Dead, number 4.
Sure.
Of a 5-issue miniseries.
This is the series they brought in to sort of supplement the current Moon Knight run. It's happened kind of in the middle of the Jed MacKay run. This one's actually different in that it's not just in the city of New York and stuff like that. It mostly happens kind of on the Egyptian astral plane. And it introduces Lila from the Moon Knight show into the actual Marvel universe.
Oh.
So Layla was not...
She wasn't in it before?
No, she was not in it before. Moon Knight's romantic interest for most of the last 40 years has been a woman called Marlene. And they replaced Marlene with Layla in the show. And Moon Knight's married, Mark Spector's married to her in the show. They kind of now are going back and making a retrofit to bring Layla in as a previous love interest of Mark from way back in the day. And then she died. And that's why he's meeting up with her in the City of the Dead.
That's crazy.
But, good stuff. I actually like that one. If you don't already know from other podcasts, I am a Moon Knight fanatic. So I'm definitely reading all of these. And they've been fun.
Okay. Then we have Blade, which I have actually been really enjoying. It's on its 4th issue of 5, or it's of ongoing. Never mind.
Yep. There's a number of those. What are you liking about Blade?
I like it a lot. Because I just like vampires in general. But I think it's got a cool story, and I like that Doctor Strange is in it because I also love him. But it's got a really cool kind of dark story going on. And also the issues are really quick to read, so they're just really easy to understand, and the art is cool and the story is cool. And also in this issue, they have vampires in it, and the way they draw their fangs and like how their mouths are with their like fangs is really cool.
You messed up.
It's really cool, and I like it a lot because I've never seen them drawn like that before. So I like when different like kinds of monsters are drawn like not in their traditional way, because it just makes it cooler and more unique. So I like that.
Excellent. Yeah, that one's by Brian Hill, and then it's got Valentina Pinti and Elena Casagrande on art. So good stuff. I've been enjoying these as well. I think they're doing a nice job with that. And then we have Spider-Man India, which you've also been reading.
Yes. I love Spider-Man India. I love anything Spider-Man, but I especially like him, especially because I saw him in the Spider-Verse movie.
Yep.
And since then, I just love him. And this is like, I like this series because it like has a kind of, I think a lot of Spider-Man stuff, like the Miles Morales and this one, kind of have how do you say it, like political messages and like messages like that, and I think that's really cool. This one's about like capitalism and like industrialization in a way, where they're like taking down the poorer communities to build up these like tech centers. So, and he has to like protect his town from that happening.
There you go.
And at the end of this one, his suit gets wrecked when he's fighting. Oh, no. And so there's a lady in the town that makes him a new one, and it looks like the one from the Spider-Verse movie, because the one he has for the majority of the series is like just a more normal Spider-Man looking suit, and this one is like his like more unique one, and I kind of started freaking out when I saw it because I really like his suit, so I was like, oh my gosh, he has his suit.
Very cool. So now you're not going to love the fact that this is the end of the series.
Yeah.
But hopefully they'll have another one coming out.
Mm-hmm.
The end doesn't seem to be the end these days for a lot of this. I mean, we have most of the books that we have this week are under like issue 7, so they just keep canceling them and bringing them back.
I would love to see a series with him and Hobie, because they're besties, and nobody can deny that fact.
Alrighty then. That would be fun, actually. That would be a lot of fun. So what else do we have?
Next, we had Avengers number 6.
Yep. And this one is where they were battling the Ashen Combine. Did you happen to read this one? Okay. This finished up Jed McKay's first arc on Avengers. He's been doing great stuff on Moon Knight and Doctor Strange and all sorts of things. Now he's on Avengers. And it was a lot of fun. Captain Marvel's taken over the team, put together her own team, and then they faced, as usual, a world-ending threat. So interesting stuff. Looking forward to seeing kind of where that goes from here.
We have Guardians of the Galaxy, which I really wanted to read, but it's on issue 7, and I was not going to get through all 7 issues to like talk about it.
Yeah, and you really need to
Yeah, I would not be able to just read this week's and probably understand what's happening.
No, there's so much weird stuff going on. They're in the middle of something called Grootfall. So Grootfall is ongoing at this point, and Guardians is not currently at what I would call a great sort of like jumping on point.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to need to be a little bit put in. Even going back and restarting, I read when we started doing this, I went back and read Guardians from number 1 of the current run, and I need to go back and read farther, because even where this one started out, it was really weird and confusing. So good. I love the art, and I like the story. I think they're doing interesting stuff, but it is definitely confusing.
Okay. Next we have X-Men Red, which is on number 16.
Speaking of confusing,
I'm not even going to try and even start X-Men stuff.
So I used to love X-Men back when I was younger, and I read through about the first 300 or so issues. So I decided with X-Men Red coming up, it's on 16, I read through the first 15 or what issues and then read 16. And it is astonishing how much is going on and how many characters. This is essentially the X-Men on Mars, on essentially a terraformed Mars that's been turned into a mutant-only community. So a lot of our favorite mutants have left Earth and have relocated to Mars, where they're sort of making a home with another group of... Oh no, I'm putting you to sleep with this already. That's not good. So, but lots of bad stuff is happening. Also, I'm way behind on X-Men. I did not know that for the last however long, they've just been able to regenerate themselves whenever they die. Which is weird, and I haven't really been enjoying that. It's like, really, they just die every issue and then come back from a little egg
that's
thing.
not fun.
Yeah. Take some of the...
Where's the drama?
Take some of the drama out. That's right. Anyway, Venom. Did you read
Venom's
Venom?
on number 26,
Yes.
so I did not read Venom.
I actually didn't get to Venom this week either. But that has been plugging along. It is as something that's been going, and then also is coming out of the Death of the Venomverse storyline. I'm going to get to these because I've heard a lot of really good things about them.
Yeah.
I'm just still catching up.
Venom's a really cool character to me, but I just, like, when I was like, oh, Venom, but then I saw it was on 26, and I was like, I can't do all that.
So maybe we are right here proving some of Marvel's wisdom in rebooting all of their series to one all the time, but we'll see.
And then we have Amazing Spider-Man, which is now on number 35.
Yeah, and this is Amazing Spider-Man 35 is an issue where something happens.
Oh.
Like, this is an issue that we were warned about. Spider-Man does something, and then everybody's angry at him for a long time. And so, yeah.
Interesting.
So Spider-Man 35, something happens. We don't want to talk about that one, but if you've been waiting for this issue for a long time, you got to get out and get to your app and get reading, because this is
it's happening.
This is not a drill. This is when it all starts. All of the stuff the internet was so angry about. So
okay, and then lastly we have Wolverine number 38.
Classic, one of the longest running books in the current Marvel canon. This has got a guest star appearance by Captain America. Mm-hmm. So all sorts of fun there.
He's in all sorts of wolf stuff this week.
He is. Wolverine is not a wolf.
Okay, close enough.
No, I'm gonna say no on that. But anyways, so those are the new books for this week. Some good stuff. I enjoyed these. Starting to catch up a little bit. You know, mostly I've been reading like Daredevil and Moon Knight stuff previously in the app. I hadn't gotten around to a lot of other stuff, so I'm way behind a lot of these. Really enjoying starting to catch up. There's a lot of fun books in the Marvel world right now. So, what did we have for Jumping On Points?
Jumping On Points are our first issues that we talked about, which were Captain Marvel, Capwolf and the Howling Commandos, and the Superior Spider-Man.
Yep, and really I didn't see any place else that was a great jumping on point.
Yeah.
Outside of, kind of like we talked about, Star Wars Dark Droids, where you could sort of jump still on the moving train if you wanted, because it is in the middle and it might be cool to do it.
Do it now before it's too late.
Exactly. Now you've got 14 books. If you wait till next week, you've got 16 books. It just gets worse. So, anyway, how about bingeable? What do we got maybe that are ending or have some complete storylines?
So we have Spider-Man India, which we talked about, and then Avengers, which ended its first story arc that
Yep.
my dad talked about. So those two are both, like, Avengers isn't completely finished, but the first story arc is ending, so if you want that story, then you could read it and understand what's happening.
Yep.
And Spider-Man India is, like, 5 issues, I believe. And it's a really good story, so and it's really easy to get through and read and understand, so.
And would you think that is, like, they did a good job of telling a complete story? Is there anything where you're like, still, you have it wasn't in a cliffhanger at the end or whatever, it's right now sort of tied up essentially as the story goes?
Yeah. He, resolved all his conflicts, so I think it's pretty good.
And then, the other thing, just a quick note about that whole Lost in Time thing. It's weird to me that we've got a Magneto series set back in comic time in the 80s, Silver Surfer set in the 90s, and then they also put in the Daredevil facsimile issue number 183 from back in Frank Miller's classic first Daredevil run. This was actually published in 1982, and the one weird thing about it is because they published the facsimile, it has all the ad pages and all the other stuff.
That's kind of cool, actually,
it's a complete comic, which is something I know that if they were all in there, I'd be irritated about having to go through the ad pages, but I also miss them. I almost wish there was a toggle where I could turn on ad pages where I wanted to, when I wanted to get nostalgic about, like, bubblegum ads and stuff like this, and a way to turn them off when I didn't want them. But if you read the Daredevil 183, it actually does have all of the other sort of metadata that's normally in a comic book, the ads and the house ads and all the other stuff, which is very different from what we get with the regular ones, where of course they strip all that out. One of the things I really miss is the fact that they don't even have the letter pages in a lot of these books, and I wish that there were letter pages. So what does that mean? Oh my god. So if we go here, in the back of all old comic books.
No, that was at the end of Spider-Man India. They had one of those.
They did have one.
Yeah.
So there are some of them that put letter pages in. Most of the ones I'm seeing.
I was like, it looks like there's, like, people writing in.
Yeah, and they do have places for you to write in. Normally, though, they don't actually have that in the issues here. You get to the end, and it's just the end of the issue. Let me see if they've started.
Yeah, there was another one in one of the Miles Morales ones. I don't think it was a letter, like letters from people, but it was like a description at the end, like a letter from the author kind of thing, which isn't in a lot of the other ones either.
Okay, cool. Well, maybe I'll start looking more for that. I know there are some.
It's just better.
Alrighty, I guess we'll have to assume that's probably what's going on. So, but yeah, so the of course, if you're reading the Daredevil stuff, 183 is in the regular Daredevil run, but you can read a different one this way if you want. So, as far as recommendations, let's go ahead and start with you this week. What is your recommendation for this week?
I would recommend Spider-Man India because I've already said, like, everything I need to say about it, but if you love Spider-Man or have watched the Spider-Verse movies, you have to love him because he's absolutely adorable. He's such a cutie patootie, and he's got a really good story in this. And he's just... I just like Spider-Man in general, and if you like Spider-Man, you should like this. So, yeah.
Excellent. I'm going to go with Star Wars Dark Droids, actually, just kind of that whole idea of this big crossover. I had not read a lot of the recent Star Wars comics, and so, but I'm a Star Wars fan. Have been a sci-fi fan my whole life. So, obviously, I've watched most of the Star Wars TV shows and all of the movies and everything like that. I think these are really kind of a nice way to enjoy some of those characters. This is right in the classic original series timeline. So, C-3PO was infected with the bad droid stuff and everything, and so it's all of the characters you love. So, it's well worth checking out. It is definitely an investment in time if you haven't started yet, because going back and catching up on all of them. But like I said, there's a checklist in every book that makes it easy to do. It's worth checking out. All right, and with that, we are done for this week. This episode covered essentially the comics of the 14th to 20th. Next week we will be looking at the books for January 21st to 27th. That should come out in your podcast feed somewhere around the 23rd, Tuesday the 23rd of January.
And we'd love to hear from you. Email us at unlimitedanswers@comicsovertime.com or find us on Instagram or Blue Sky at comicsovertime. Make sure to subscribe now in order to get our weekly look at what is new on the Marvel Unlimited app. You can find us anywhere fine podcasts are available, including iTunes, Google, Amazon, Spotify, and our hosting platform, Podbean.
Absolutely. Sienna, it's been a lot of fun.
As always.
Yeah. See all you folks next week. Have fun reading comics.
Bye.